The fighting in the south and the north has been going on for more than a month. Joining me is Jürgen Bühler, who has 2 sons, not 1, in the Israeli army. Thank you so much for taking this time at the Media Line.
Thank you so much. It's always a joy to join you in this program.
Jürgen, 2 sons, they weren't born Jewish, you're Christian, you're running a Christian embassy here. First of all, how do you feel as a father having 2 in the army?
I think like every parent in Israel, one of our boys, he's in a combat unit. He actually is in the front lines right now. One son is in a more secure place, but also goes back and forth to the front line. And of course, the first thing is when you hear somebody unexpected knocking at the door, you wonder what's happening. Is there bad news coming? And especially my wife, we are under constant tension. You pray more than you ever prayed before for the safety, not only of your own kids, but for friends and comrades that they have around them. And it's really a life changer to experience that firsthand, what Israel is going through for more than 75 years now.
How long are you living in Israel?
We moved here 29 years ago. I came here as a student of physics. I was at the Weizmann Institute. Now I'm at the Christian Embassy, so it's a long time.
How did your children end up in the army? I mean, many people know there's been some problems in terms of citizenship, being Christian and living in Israel. If you can just explain that a little bit.
Well, it's actually due to our youngest son, and he was the first one to end up in the army. And he really, from small childhood on, it was his life dream to serve one day in the IDF, be part of the Israeli army. So through him, through different contacts, we contacted people in the army, said our son wants to go to the army. We had temporary residency. Today we have permanent residency. They accepted our son, and through that we came into the system. Then the second boy was drafted in. And that's the story. They grew up here in Israel. They were born here in Israel. Of course, they knew we are German. They grew up Christian. But at the same time, all their friends were Israelis. And they really felt at home here. They felt this is a great nation to live in. And for them, it's natural to defend the country where they are living in.
Other Christian families are living in Israel in the same situation as yourself.
Not too many. I think there are many long-term families that are living here, but their children don't have to serve the army. Our children made a decision that they want to go into the army. We didn't force them or strongly encourage them because we knew that it's a life and death decision what they have to make. And it proved to be true in the situation we are in right now. Many parents also, they decide not to encourage their children to go to the army. So our boys made the decision. And I think there is maybe 2-3 other families that I know with Christian background that send their children also to the army.
Looking at your family background and understanding where your roots were, how do you think your grandfather or your father would have looked on the fact that you now have 2 sons in the Israeli army?
Well, my father, or our son's grandfather, he was Hitler's soldier. He was serving in the Wehrmacht and serving in an army that had a target to annihilate the Jewish people in Europe. And it was a very unique experience that my father had, where a Jewish doctor actually saved his life in a prison camp that really turned him around, and he became a friend and a lover of the Jewish people. And that's how he raised us. I believe my father would be absolutely proud to see his grandson serving in the Israeli army. And it's very special for both of our boys to do that as a German. You know, I was visiting maybe 3 days before they went into Gaza. We still could visit them on one of the army bases where he was. And a young American soldier who was together with him, an Israeli IDF soldier a new immigrant from the US, he says, "Oh, you are the father of Simon." And he said, "You know, I need to tell you, I lost my whole family in the Holocaust, and my grandparents were the only one from the whole family clan that survived. I never wanted to talk to Germans, never want to shake the hands of German. He says, you don't know what it means to fight now in Gaza together with a young German who loves the Jewish people. He says, that's the story of my life, and it was such a touching experience to see that.
There's a lot of human sacrifice right now on all sides. And you have to look at what happened in the massacre of October 7th, but also look at the plight of many of the innocent Palestinians as well. And I'm not talking about Hamas terrorists. So how do you feel about that when you're looking at more and touching on people's hearts as a Christian, as a devoted Christian?
Well, you know, looking at what's happening at Gaza today, it reminds me what happened in Germany, you know. First of all, speaking about innocent Palestinians, more than 40% were voting for Hamas. And they knew exactly, it was written out that one of their main target was to kill Jews, and that's part of their party statement. So they generated an atmosphere that I believe it's very comparable to what happened in Nazi Germany, where a huge part of the German population actually fully endorsed what Hitler was doing. In a way, what Germany needed, and my father was always telling me that, he says, you know, it was so important for Britain and for the United States to really, with a strong hand, go against Germany, bomb German cities, really bring Germany to the knees. That brought us on a ground zero, so to speak, where we could build up afresh. Otherwise, this Nazi spirit would be still living on in Germany today. And I think that's what's happening in Gaza today. It's brought down to a ground zero and a zero level. But I believe also, if we do it right, if you have a Marshall Plan, so to speak, for the Gaza community, where you invest in education, where it's not tolerated anymore to teach to hate the Jewish people, to be against the state of Israel, I believe this actually could be a fresh start, a reset for the Gaza community, and it could turn out to become a blessing for those people.
How many Christians are living here in Israel right now? And you have to separate, there are evangelical Christians, there are Christians from other denominations, and I think oftentimes people don't know that there's a difference.
I think the official number is something like 200,000 Christians here in Israel. The vast majority of them is historic churches, how we call them. That would be Catholics, Maronite, Orthodox Christians. That means churches that are here for centuries. Evangelical Christianity, like we represent, it's a relative new brand of Christianity. It emerged over the last 100 years. And my guess is that there are around maybe 30,000 evangelical, 40,000 evangelicals maximum that are living here. But many of them are short-term visitors, those who are coming from abroad. They stay here for a few years helping in different organizations, and then they return back to the land. I think there are very few who are like us for many decades here in the land of Israel.
Jürgen, so many groups come from all over the world through the Christian Embassy to see the land of Israel. And at this time, there are very few flights coming in and out of Israel during the war. How has that changed your operations?
It changed it a lot. First of all, I have to tell you, you know, when the war started, we came out of what is called the biggest tourist event every year in Israel. The very last day of the Feast of Tabernacles was the 6th of October. And our tour groups, I think 80% of them were still in the country of the around 3,000 pilgrims that we had here. And that means the tourists who were here, that they were sitting in the next day in bomb shelters and hotels in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem. And in a way, it did a lot of, I must say, had a huge positive impact on them, because every single one of them who I talked to, of our leaders, of the pilgrims, we checked, how are you doing? They said this was such an important experience, because we always read through the news what Israel is going through. And of course, we pray for Israel, we stand for Israel. This was the first time we experienced ourselves on our own skin what it means to go to a bomb shelter, what it means to have the uncertainty what Israel is going through. Belarus. So in a way, it did something that I believe those people who were still here from the Feast of Tabernacles, they are much more loyal friends of Israel than before. And of course, it changed our operation. We are about to plan a pastors' conference. Most likely, this conference will not take place. But at the same time, it is also an opportunity where you see the outpouring of love and support from around the world like at hardly any other time. We get so much donations and support coming in. Just now we heard about a ambulance that was being paid by the Czech Republic, another ambulance from Switzerland. We just got $500,000 from the Germany coming in, other money coming in from the United States, more ambulances there. So it's a great time of generosity where people show they don't only say we love Israel, but they really put their action, their money in where their confession is.
Several days before the massacre on October 7th, you were with a group in Kibbutz Be'eri planting trees. And then cut a couple of days later, what went through your mind when you saw the atrocities of that day?
Well, you need to understand we have a relationship with the Gaza envelope that dates back more than 10 years. We have been building bomb shelters there. I think by now it's more than 200 bomb shelters that we have been building there, many more cleaning up and taking care of them. And we really developed close relationships to people like Ophir Lipstein, who welcomed us on that very day with the Feast of Tabernacles, the head of the regional council, like Shai Helmish, former member Knesset, and also the former leader of the regional council. So they became friends, and we talked to each other on phone and wished each other happy Hanukkah. We were on the 5th of October. We were right down there at the Gaza envelope. We had 700 people with us. We had an amazing time. Some of our pilgrims, they said, Jürgen, this event, we don't know why, but it just felt special to be there at the Gaza envelope. Some said it was the best event during the whole Feast of Tabernacles. And Ophir Lipstein was standing there. He was welcoming us. The last words I remember from him, he said, Jürgen, you need to promise you have to come back next year again. And 2 days later, I was hearing the news about the rockets coming down in Gaza. And my first thoughts went to him, and I called him. There was no answer on the phone. That was 8 o'clock in the morning. Later on, I heard that he was one of the first victims that was shot on that morning. And it really, we were planting, like you said, a forest, the Be'eri forest that became a part of the ICJ, the Christian Embassy Nature Park. So we really are embedded in that very area where this horrendous attack took place. We were driving on the streets 2 days later. It was covered with dead bodies, those streets. So in a way, for us, it really felt that almost like God placed us there in that surrounding, that He wants to, in a way, tell us, this is the people, these are your friend, we want you to take care of them, and we want you to be involved in what's taking place. That's why today, every single day, since the first day, we called an online prayer meeting. I'm not sure how many people come to an online prayer meeting. We had around 16 or 1700 people joining us on Zoom. Since then, that numbers kept growing or kept the same for more than a month now. Every day, people, they pray for Israel. They give for Israel. And I believe in more than 25 countries around the world, our people go out on the streets, have pro-Israel demonstrations. And I think it's exactly because of that they felt there is this relationship with that community that in a way for us it was almost like a very tragic but a divine connection with the people in the Gaza envelope.
There were people that belonged to the Christian Embassy that come from all over the world. There were Nepalese that also were wounded, killed. And I understand that some of them were involved in gifting here. Can you shed some light on that? Because these are not people of means.
No, absolutely. The generosity of our people, with the Nepalese, they left a donation of $10,000 of one of the poorest countries in the world. The generosity of our people is amazing. We have one of the bigger delegations at the feast, for example, comes from Bolivia. It's a country that is considered the poorest country in Latin America. And not only that did we have 100 people coming from there, which means for those people to come here, that is taking several months' salary of investment to be here in Israel. They also left a very, very generous donation back here in Israel. That means those people from around the world, be it the Philippines, Bolivia, from Tanzania. I just had a Zoom call yesterday with a big church from Tanzania that is supporting Aliyah for the Jewish people back to Israel in big amounts. It is unbelievable for us. You know, their average salary in the month is around $300. Yet from Tanzania, we received last year, I believe, $30,000 or $40,000 to support Aliyah. And right now they are collecting offerings all across those countries because they want to stand with Israel when it's needed most. And it's very heartwarming to see that this is not just a religious confession, but they really want to, in a sacrificial way, they want to stand behind this nation of Israel.
Many of these countries are not friends of Israel. They're looking at the television networks and they're possibly looking at the story differently than maybe you might like to see it. So what do you say to those people?
You know, our people, which even in Bolivia, which has, I think this was the first country that terminated their diplomatic relationships when the war started. At the same time, one of our strongest branches in Latin America is from Bolivia. And you know, you have to differentiate. There are evangelical Christians all across the Latin American subcontinent. And those Christians, they all stand with Israel. Why? Because they read the Bible. You know, it's so often we are dealing with 500 million evangelical Christians all over the world. It's impossible for us as Christian Embassy to teach all of them. I was, you know, recently I came to China, a nation that is not super friendly to Israel. And I was talking to a group of pastors in a big city in China. They represent something like 1 million believers in their area. And I talked to them about Israel. They said, oh, you're the first time a visitor from Israel came. You are the first one to come. I thought I'd give them a very basic teaching about why Israel is important for Christianity. Within a short time, I realized they understood and they knew everything I was teaching them. So I asked him, so who taught you? So somebody must have taught you. And I'll never forget that. The guy looked at me with big eyes. He says, what do you mean, who taught us? We just read the Bible. It's everywhere in the Bible. Wherever you open the Bible, you find Israel, Israel, Israel. We know we need to bless the Jewish people. We know they are the chosen people. We know that we have to stand alongside them. It's a global phenomenon that is independent, actually, of what the government policy represents in those countries. Evangelical Christians, because they read a Hebrew Bible, a Jewish Bible, the Tanakh, they understand they need to stand with the Jewish people, with the state of Israel.
I want to wish you a lot of safety for your sons, and thank you so much for sharing your story and theirs at the Media Line.
Toda Rabba, thank you so much.